BYU and Washington State. Coug on Coug action.
Action.
This is a huge game for BYU, and I think a lot of people understand that maybe that the season's over, Pool and Weed Eater Bowl, which is fine, but I think you're still building momentum. I think you are still looking for big wins to finish this season, Jake. I'm not going to say this is a must win, but Jake, I think this is a really critical game for BYU.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you can go out and beat a Pac-12 opponent, you're going to want to do that. Unfortunately, this week Washington State is not regarded as some great team or anything, but at the same time, I think with where BYU is at as a program, you'd really like to see him win this game. I agree, it's not a must-win game just because right now you're not playing for like a New Year's Six Bowl or anything like that, but at the same time, if you're in that program and you're a BYU football player right now, this is a big game for you. You're getting hyped for this. Kalani's been talking about all week how he was really upset with the lack of discipline last week and how they were not good defensively. And all I'm saying is that at some point, the defense has to pick it up here. I mean, you cannot continue to just not make plays. Like you're in a place where last week you have your quarterback in Jaren Hall, who, in my opinion, didn't play great. He played good enough for them to win a ball game. That's what my opinion is. Like, he played good enough, but he didn't play great. And the defense really was the source of the issue in terms of why they lost that game. So when I think about BYU against Washington State, I want to see a dominant performance. That's what I want to see. I want to see them come out against a Pac-12 opponent and flex. I want to see them show that they are a disciplined defense, that they can make plays, that they're getting off the field on third down and not giving up, first downs due to mental lapses on defense. That's what I'm going to be looking for. And then this whole Jaren Hall, Baylor Romney, quarterback, who should be what situation, I think based on everything I've seen this week, I don't even feel like this is even a conversation anymore. I feel like the program is just simply moving forward with Jaren no matter what. You've got players saying that, he's great because he's got all this athleticism, but he still chooses to throw first. You've got Kalani praising him. So I think at the end of the day, Jaren's your starting quarterback, and, this whole dynamic of him not wanting to run the football is going to hold this team back. And I don't think that that's going to change, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things that's very clear here is if BYU wants to get back to their winning ways, they've got to get Tyler Allgeier the football, and they've got to get him involved. But again, I think to do that, you really need Jaren Hall to be mobile. And for 2 straight weeks now, he simply has not been. Outside of the one long touchdown run against Baylor, the running game simply has been absent from Jaren Hall's arsenal. And I think if that's going to be the case, and if that's how he's going to play football, I think you're going to have to figure out how to build route trees and route combinations that allow him to throw the football underneath, to loosen up those linebackers a little bit, to get guys off the football a little bit. Because his numbers and I know it's been widely talked about this week, but his numbers are a bit deceiving, right? And Jaren Hall is he's a really dynamic quarterback when he's healthy. Yes, he throws the deep ball, but my point is that, again, the underneath game is why BYU is losing offensively. And yes, I agree with you 100%. They've got to get off the field on 3rd and 4th down. They are amongst the worst teams in the country at getting teams off the field on 3rd down. I mean, BYU's defense simply does not do a very good job on 3rd down. And they've got to figure that out. And this goes back to, the system that you play is a bend, don't break system. And when you play bend, don't break, 3rd down becomes a very ball-breaking down for you. And I think you got to figure that out. But I still think, Jake, the biggest story for BYU is that you've got to figure out how to get more out of Jaren Hall. It pains me to watch Tyler Allgeier run through 3-4 guys right at the point of contact. I mean, he is not having the easy route, and I think that's why they're trying to throw him the ball more. And I don't think he's nearly as effective as he was as a running back, and I understand that's why you're throwing him the ball. But until BYU decides to loosen up those linebackers on the opposing defense, I just don't see Tyler Allgeier having the big impact that he had the first 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah, and I think it's a situation where you have one of two options for getting the running game going. I mean, you either have to get Jaren to run the football more and to become an actual threat on the ground as a quarterback, or you have to find a way to discipline your offensive line to create holes. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, if you go all the way back to playing Utah State, like you look at it and you say, hey, like we ran the ball all over them, right? You look at Boise and Algier had himself a nice little week against Boise too. So I just when they're playing Baylor, I'm like, dude, like the offensive line was not opening anything up for them, and that was largely due to Jaren not being a threat at all. But I'm more a proponent of don't run the option. If Jaren's not going to run, why are we running the option? Like, why are we not running pistol formation? Turn around, hand him the football, and just play smash mouth football. Why would you not do that if Jaren's not going to be available to run the football as a quarterback? So I've never been a big fan of like the hey, we're going to run the option, but we're going to kind of half-ass the option. Like Jaren's not going to be a threat, and we're just going to kind of run the option, and we're going to run a couple plays, and we're going to lose about 2 or 3 yards of play. I don't really understand that philosophy at all. So it's going to be one of two things. Either Jaren Hall is going to start running the football more, or they just simply need to turn around and hand it off to Tyler Algier, and when Tyler gets tired, hand it off to Peeny. I mean, that's like what this team has to do to get things going, because at the end of the day, Jaren Hall is not a good enough thrower of the football for you to not run the ball and just have him win the game with his arm. We've seen that. Last week we saw it. Oh, he threw for 300 yards. He's a great quarterback. Right, 300 insignificant yards because he underthrew all of his deep balls, which, again, still bothers me.
But I think something else that you have to consider is who you're playing. In Washington State defensively, they're much better against the pass. And frankly, Washington State's wins this year have been really a product of causing turnovers in the passing game. They've been able to create interceptions. They've been able to take away passing lanes very effectively. And I think that's one of the other reasons that you have to be able to play underneath if you're BYU this week. And I got to believe that that's what BYU is going to attack, because when I look at Washington State, this is a team that is far better against the pass than they are against the run. But BYU is far better at passing the ball than they are running the ball the last 2-3 weeks. So it's this interesting dynamic. And obviously what's going on with Nick Rolovich, and again, I will say I don't see that being a huge factor in this game.
No, I think that Washington State they know who they are. The culture in their program is defined. Like if you look at what happened at USC, right? Like firing Clay Helton, after week 2 or whatever it was. That's a little bit of a different situation than having to fire your head coach for COVID protocol in week 7 or 6 or whatever. You're well into the season now. So the culture and the leadership on the team is well established. And so to me, I think it is going to be a talking point on the broadcast, obviously, but I don't actually think that when it comes to, smashing your face into another football player, that Nick Rolovich not being on the sideline is going to matter too much.
Yeah, I think that it is. I think it's really interesting. I mean, some of the numbers on Washington State, they're giving up nearly 42% passing success on third down.
Mm-hmm.
So you can still beat Washington State throwing the ball, but they're 39th against the pass, which is really good. They're able to be more effective when it comes to points per pass because of these big plays that they've created defensively.
Yeah.
So Jaren Hall's going to have to be very careful when he lets go of that football to the sideline. And I think that you have to. And I mean, I'm assuming that every week that's gone by here, he's gotten a little healthier. So you would hope that his ribs and shoulder would be feeling better, but he has to RPO them at some point.
Yeah.
He has to keep the football because and we showed it and talked a lot about it last week, especially during the game, when Jaren Hall doesn't even, you're running an option play and he doesn't even pretend to try and run or keep it, immediately just pitches it. I mean, you're not going to get positive yards on that play.
Yeah, he's not even taking away a defender. I mean, the whole purpose, like, let's be on the same page. The whole purpose of the run pass option is to have your quarterback take the football and run it up to the line of scrimmage and suck in at least 1 or 2 defenders. Make the defense believe that you are going to run the football,
Yeah.
and at the last second, pitch it out to your back who ideally you would hit in stride, who's going to get 5 or 6 yards. That's what the option should be. But when the defense doesn't have to worry about you running the ball, you're not really running the option.
Well, and if you think about the way that you got off to this hot start, it's because you were able to hit those, 5, 6 yard, throws when you were rolling Jaren out of the pocket, or, you were able to keep that defense honest. And then Tyler Algier would hit his big runs, and you would occasionally have the deep ball over the top of the defense because you were so effective underneath.
Yes.
Not trying to be redundant. I'm just telling you again. You've got to find a way to play underneath, because that's where Washington State is going to be vulnerable. If you're going to live on that 12 to 17-yard throw down the field, they're going to get you eventually.
It's so funny, too, that the conversation is Jaren running the football more, yet he's playing a team that is begging him to run the football more. That it's so funny how that works out in sports, and I just think that at the end of the day, are BYU playing for a New Year's Six Bowl? No, they're not. But I still think they have a lot to play for, and I still think that this program, needs to, much like Utah has, right? This program needs to show some fight and some resilience, and they need to, whether it's Kalani doing his job at a higher level, or whether it's the position coaches doing their job at a higher level. Like last week, one of the biggest things that was so shocking was on first down, the linebackers weren't filling the holes. But then on third down, they were punishing the back at the line of scrimmage. Like, those inconsistencies as a defense can't happen, and so those are the smaller technical things I'll be looking for.
Well, and I think one of the things you have to watch in this game is Jayden de Laura, because his last 2 games have been really good. I mean, he has played really well, and part of the storyline at Washington State, obviously, is that you have a team that's won 3 straight games now. And you've done it against 3 pretty good teams in Cal. Defensively, Cal is stout at the point of attack. And then Oregon State and Stanford. And in the last 2 in particular, Jayden de Laura has been very good. And he's doing it against teams that are defensively tough, as the Utes are going to find out in Corvallis. But I think when you look at Jayden de Laura, he's a guy that you're going to have to figure it out on 3rd and 4th down, because teams are now routinely going for it against BYU on 4th down.
Because the percentages are there.
Yeah.
It makes the math is there. And this is something that is growing in college football. You're hearing it. Like, if you watch college football consistently, at least a couple times a game, they'll talk about, okay, this decision is not almost having anything to do with the packages that are on the field. It's got everything to do with what the numbers and the trends say. So, if it's 4th and 1, our percentage to get this is like 65%. So we're going to go for it. If it's 4th and 3, it's like 40%. So we're not. So I don't know. It's terrifying to me that you've got a quarterback for Washington State who is good in the passing game, because this secondary is not. This secondary has issues.
Oh, it's terrifying. And I would remind you that Oregon State and Stanford were top 50 nationally against the pass, and he torched them.
Bro.
And BYU, I think, is 83rd nationally against the pass. And the weakness of this BYU team, if I had to pick one phase of the team that was weak, it's the secondary. Chaz Ayu having to play linebacker and playing down in the box does not help.
He's doing a damn good job, too.
But he is. But the weakness in this secondary is that there's very little ball skill in the corners and safeties, and you are very inexperienced there. So things like double moves and go routes and choice routes, where you're forcing a corner, to choose, and there has to be elite communication, has been a disaster for BYU's defense.
Yeah.
They have not to this point, and what are we, 7 weeks into the season, they have not to this point figured out how to communicate on choice routes. And it's one of those things where you're forcing a cornerback who's already insecure to make a decision that requires a high level of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just not doing it. And it started, you really got exposed against Utah State, and it's just rolled downhill from there. I mean, Boise took advantage of that. Certainly last week we saw Baylor take advantage of that. That 15-yard throw downfield is torture for BYU's secondary. And Jaden Delora made a living at that the last 2 weeks, and I think that's going to be a real problem for BYU because Delora is playing his best football. He is the guy, and I would point out when Rolo got fired on Monday, who's the guy that stood up? Jaden Delora did. And he's the guy that's leading this team, and you would expect him to come out and be inspired. So I think it's going to be very interesting. You know, if Washington State continues to play this way, the way they've played the last couple of weeks, which I agree is going to be very difficult because they have not seen a defensive line and a set of linebackers like this. BYU's linebackers are, I still maintain, are playing at an incredibly high level. Obviously, this defense has significant injuries, as does the offensive line, but these linebackers continue to make plays. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. The linebacker unit is going to have to win the day defensively for BYU. And if that happens, and if you can find a way to hit Jaden Delora, you're going to have a pretty good chance at winning this game.
Yeah, I'm terrified BYU's giving up 30 in this game.
Oh, they're going.
No.
They're going to give up 30.
Like
in
this game. And the thing is like, okay, if you give up 31, let's say, okay, that's manageable. You can still win that game if you have a good game offensively. But you can't do what you did at Baylor and be down 2 scores the whole game and give up 38 and think you're going to win this game.
I think you are asking this Washington State team to do a lot in the span of a very short window. And when you're looking at Rolovich being fired, it's not just Nick Rolovich, it's 4 of his assistants as well. You are looking at complete turnover in that coaching staff. You're looking at a team that's now led not by coaches but by players. And players at this stage in their career play on emotion. I think this is somewhere in the order of 42-37. And I think BYU is going to win the game.
Oh, man.
I have to believe. I think this is going to be an absolute shootout. I think it is going to be an absolute shootout. I don't see any way. You know, and if you look at the number, it's not accidental that BYU is favored here. You look at the number being 56.5, that's not accidental. I'm telling you, this is going to be a shootout, and I think you're asking too much out of Washington State players, and I have to believe that a Kalani Sitake-led football team, I have to believe a Kalani Sitake-led football team is not going to continue to be a sieve defensively. I think BYU is going to find a way to win this game.
Man, I don't have as much confidence in them as you do. I'm not saying that BYU is in trouble or anything, but I have a lot of trouble seeing a Jaren Hall-led team scoring 40 points. I have a lot of trouble with that. That does not – I'm not comfortable saying that they'll score 40 points in this game. I'm just not. I think that Jaren will turn it over in this game at least once. I think that, you know, this game, frankly, I think this game will be decided on how much he runs. I really do. Like, you know what the defense is going to give you. You know what you have in Tyler Algier.
I just have to believe he's going to be mobile. I can't believe.
I mean, I'd like to believe that, yeah, but I mean, can we really, like, what we're making that assumption just off the idea that he's healthier, but I don't know, man. Like,
this offense does not function when Jaren Hall throws the ball.
Yeah.
It does not function. And everybody, you know, gets all boned out over his stats and look at a 300 yards. They're losing games because they are not efficient offensively and because Tyler Algier is not your workhorse anymore. You're relying on throwing the football.
You're taking him out of the game.
And when Jaren Hall's your starting quarterback, relying on him to throw the football is asking to lose. Hi.
Hello.
I almost dropped my microphone. But the point is, when you rely on Jaren Hall to throw you to a win, you're going to lose more than you're going to win.
Yeah.
And I have to believe that at some point, he's going to be able to run the football again. And usually when he runs the football, he gets hurt. So I think, you know, that's something to definitely watch. I think they're going to win the game. I think that you're going to see things from this defense you haven't seen yet. Because, I mean, I have to think that Tuiaki and Kalani are not just going to sit here and let this team try to figure it out. They're going to put wrinkles in to handicap that secondary.
Yeah, I hope so, man.
At some point.
I hope so.
At some point, I would think.
Yeah.
What do you think score-wise?
I think it's 38-31 Washington State. I can't get down with BYU putting up 40. I just can't. I can't. Like, unless Jaren Hall just goes off and has 100 on the ground and, probably 280 to 300 in the air, okay, maybe we're having a different conversation. But based on what I've seen the last 2 weeks, I don't like what I'm seeing. Jaren Hall is one-dimensional, and he's not an elite thrower of the football. So if that trend continues, they're not winning this game. But I agree with you. There's an opportunity for Jaren to come out and light the world on fire if he's healthy. So we'll see. I just don't know what to expect out of Jaren. So going off of what we've seen the last 2 weeks, I don't like them to win this game because I don't think they're capable of putting up 40 points. That's my concern.
Well, no, I'm not going to change. 42-37 BYU wins. Okay. And I think he runs the football. Jaren Hall is, I think, getting away from home. I think playing on the road. I like BYU to cover the 4.5.
Okay.
I do. And I know I'm probably the only one. Okay. I think this Rolovich situation is critical.
What are the people saying?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the comments yet today.
Who's all pissed off?
I'm sure somebody is. Kenny says, morning, folks. What's up, Kenny? Eric C. Kenny says, In-N-Out is overrated. We're going to talk about In-N-Out.
We're talking about In-N-Out again today, and it's not good.
Edgar says, my boys, it's Friday. The Dodgers won. How about Chris Taylor?
Dude, I tweeted last night, I hate the Dodgers, but Chris Taylor deserves all the credit in the world, bro.
That guy.
Super clutch.
Cody Strickland says, good morning, men. Steph's first quarter was fired, 25 points.
Amazing.
Second, not so much, but can the organization or league penalize Ben for faking an injury?
That's exactly what I thought yesterday.
I don't think Ben Simmons should be penalized for anything. I think this is 100% the fault of the Philadelphia 76ers. You knew who this guy was coming out of college. You knew who this guy has been since he's been on your team. You asked him to carry the load offensively, and that's not who he is. You should have addressed this far
years
earlier.
Years ago.
Way before now. You are in this position, Philadelphia, the 76ers. You're in this position because you have horseshit leadership. And you don't know how to run an organization. And Daryl Morey's frankly not a guy that you want sitting on top of your team. And this is why, because he doesn't know how to handle superstars.
Super stubborn, dude.
Period. Brylark says, morning, boys. Let's have a great weekend. Let's hope Jake... Whoa. Hey, now, comment dump. Let's hope Jake pound town some box and we get a nice story for Monday.
I really don't care if you think it's sus.
It's not going to happen this weekend, boys.
Okay.
Sorry. No dates lined up.
Okay, so we're back to the Virgin days.
Well,
BYU fan CJ says, go Cougs, beat the Cougs.
Coug on Coug action.
We contemplated having the thumbnail today be two Cougars mating.
And just kind of scruff it and play with it when it's wet.
So... we were thinking about it.
I'm just saying.
We were thinking about it.
Yeah.
We didn't. We were thinking about it. James Knight says, man, Steph Curry, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Teddy Wayman says, happy Friday, gents. What's up? Greg Hawkins says, sup, guys, go Utes. James Knight says, Washington State will tear BYU a new one. Jeremy Bolton says, James, watch your mouth. Exactly. Cooper Royal says, would love to see BYU drop 3 in a row. Okay, you might get your wish. LOL, James says, I really have no idea about college football. Eric C. says, James, be a San Diego State fan. Don't follow a team that can't crack the top 25. Okay, here we go. It's all doom and gloom. BYU will never win another game. Kalani isn't going to let this season go down in flames. He will make the adjustments, and we win going into the Virginia game, CJ says. Yeah, I would agree with that. Jeremy Bolton says if Jaren runs the ball and runs it effectively, that opens up Algiers' game and the passing game and everything else. That happens, BYU wins going away. Why isn't Jaren Hall running the ball?
I don't know, dude. I don't know because we cannot definitively say it's a health issue because, I mean, yeah, sure, he's probably not, he's close to 100% now, I would guess, but I can't definitively say that, hey, he had sore ribs, so he didn't run the football, Clearly against Baylor, he was more than fine to run 60, 70 yards to the end zone untouched. So you're really telling me you're not healthy enough to run the football? I don't really buy that. That's what I struggle with.
I think he doesn't want to get hit.
Well,
I think he doesn't want to get hit. Period.
And then, not to be an asshole about it, then you got to be a better thrower of the football, man.
Yeah, and he
Like-
probably shouldn't be out there.
Yeah, like, you know, like
And
we
also-
had big discussions on the show at the beginning of the year about Jaren versus Baylor Romney. And I was a big Jaren guy. Like, I was a proponent of Jaren Hall. I really liked the dual threat nature. I really liked what he brought to the field. But now that I'm seeing the lack of touch on the deep ball, I really struggle with it because
He's not a precision passer.
it should have been 3 more touchdowns last week. Let's be on the same page about that. 3. If you just throw it out in front of the guy. But he didn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think they win.
Yeah, I don't.
Now, what about Utah?
Utah.
The Utah Utes.
So funny we were talking about third down efficiency in the BYU game. That's all this game's about. That's it. That is it. Freaking Oregon State, dude, is one of the best teams in the country on offense at converting third downs and one of the worst teams on defense in the country at getting off the field. So this is a game where I'm like, all right, this is a shootout. I feel like this could easily be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, I think the Oregon State Beavers.
Beaver.
The Beavers are very good at Research Stadium. And I think when you look at the way that Cam Rising's playing, arguably the hottest quarterback in the Pac-12 right now, I think this is a very, very close game. And you have to remember that Oregon State's got 10 picks this year. And they are one of the most turnover, creating secondaries in the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't often put defensive games together. The total package, front of the defense, back of the defense. They haven't often done that. But they're very good at covering on special teams. So field position is going to be a huge deal here. And I think Cam Rising is going to have to continue to be who he's been since he took over this team. They with Cam Rising, they typically are running longer drives because, he is an effective passer underneath, and he'll occasionally hit that big play, but he's also mobile enough to convert third downs, which I think is a big deal. They're averaging just short of 3.5 minutes per drive on these longer drives with Cam Rising, which I think is a big deal. They're first in the Pac-12 in scoring offense, second in offensive yards per play, and third in total offense.
Mm-hmm.
This offense has gotten itself in gear since Cam took over.
Yeah.
They're going to need to be a little better than that to beat Oregon State on the road, and I think they know that. And again, I would just remind you that every game is a Pac-12 championship game for Utah. When you're undefeated and you are controlling your own destiny, just win, baby. That's all it's about. And I think that when I look at Cam Rising and he ranks second overall in ESPN's QBR at 88.8, just behind C.J. Stroud from Ohio State, it's not hard to figure out why this team is running the football better.
Yeah.
Because they're getting much better quarterback play, and this is exactly what we just talked about with BYU.
Yes.
And that is that when your quarterback can control the football and when your quarterback is dictating to the defense, it makes it much easier to run the football. And Tavion Thomas and company have really gotten loose the last 2 weeks. They're going to need more of that this week at Reser in Corvallis. Because
I've been impressed by Tavion Thomas's ability to catch the football out in the flat. He makes it look easy.
Well, now that he is the number one back, and I mean, he leads the team in carries and yards. He's got 4 scores now. He's got 2 games. I think it's 2 games over 100 yards. Like, he's becoming that back that you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're kind of seeing the way that this offense has come together in that you have Tavion Thomas as your number one back. He's the guy that you're going to lean on. But now you also have depth and support, guys that bring you different types of running. Tavion's a big, strong back that brings you power. Micah Bernard is giving you a different shift, a different gear, if you will. A little more on the outside, a little less versatile, in my opinion, than you have in Tavion. But I think, to your point, you can throw the ball to Tavion Thomas, and he is a very good catcher of the football. I think they have a lot of versatility on offense right now, and it is also not surprising that because you're running the ball, Brant Keithy is playing at a much higher level the last couple of weeks, and I think it's really significant. He has to carry this team offensively in the passing game Brant Kuithe has to be your number one, especially in the red zone. But you're finding yourself, when you go on long drives, you find yourself in 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 6s. You know, those third obvious passing situations, you need a big tight end that can catch the football to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And with all due respect to Britton Covey, we've talked about this as well. Britton Covey has a very small usage in actual offense. He's a slot receiver. He'll catch the ball in big situations, but he is undersized, which makes it difficult to throw him the ball in tight windows because he's not able to create, unless he's running away from somebody across, he's not able to body up space the way that your wide receivers typically should, or like a guy like Kuithe can. So that's why I say he's really pivotal to this offense. So I love the fact that he's gotten going, but I also can't say enough about Cam Rising.
Yeah.
The job that he's done.
It's impressive.
Taking over for a quarterback that's quit. I just don't think you can rave about him enough at this point.
Yeah, and I think he came at a perfect time. You know, I mean, I think this program needed – I mean, you want to talk about a program that needs the leadership to step up, right? And at some point, and whether we're talking about working at a sales company or we're talking about football, right? At some point, you need someone else other than your head coach to lead the team. You know, you need somebody who's a player to lead the team. And I think that, you know, if we go back to Charlie Brewer leaving the program and quitting on the team, it was in that moment that the team was vulnerable and needed someone to step into that role. And one of the first things we heard out of this squad was that Cam Rising, on the bench as a starter, no matter what his role was always positive and always leading the team. And I think that's what's enabled him to step right into this role and play great football. And I just think that at the end of the day, Utah is in a nice groove right now. Now, that can all come to an end in one football game. Absolutely can. However, I think Cam Rising's ability to throw the football allows you to beat teams like Oregon State. And I really feel like with the way Oregon State handles 3rd down on both sides of the football, I really think that's advantageous to Utah, because if you're not going to get Utah's offense off the field, they're going to go up and down the field, you know, and that to me is how the Utes win football games. The offense is successful, then Devin Lloyd and the boys on defense get it going, they turn the football over, and now it's right back to the offense, and it creates this cycle for Utah when they're really playing well, where they just start taking over games and they possess the ball for like 25, 30 minutes a game. And you're just like, dude, like they're just dominating us. And that really is what you want to see out of this team.
Well, I mean, when you look at Brant Kuithe, Dalton Kincaid, Theo Howard's another guy that I don't think probably gets enough run on this offense. He's really emerged, but I think this is a great opportunity for this Utes offense. I feel really confident about them going into this game. And a lot of it is the offensive line, by the way, I think is also stepped up. I mean, we've spent a significant amount of minutes on the show ripping the offensive line at Utah.
It's definitely gotten better.
It's that they've definitely played at a
Jim's
better, higher
improved.
level. Well, I mean, there was no way to go down. You were only going to get better. But this feels like a low-scoring game to me. This feels like a grinded-out punch-him-in-the-face game. This feels like, 28-27, 28-24. And I have to lean towards Utah in this game. We are teetering on the edge of destruction.
Bro.
My dog is walking around in his blanket, like underneath our camera, and like, dude, what are you doing here?
See,
kid?
so we have a different feel about this game, which is funny. We're usually on the pretty same page. I actually don't think this is going to be a low-scoring game. My feeling on this game, after reading and digging into Oregon State and kind of seeing where they were at with things, my feeling was more that, Utah's momentum coming into this game was going to continue, that they were just going to pick up right where they left off. And that's mainly because they're getting, all facets of the game are moving forward. So, like, you think about how well they're running the football, and then you think about how well Cam is throwing the football, and they're just executing. So that's why I felt like, you're going to be like Utah. I feel like in this game is going to be, at least they're definitely going to be above 30 points in this game, in my opinion. Like, I think they're going to be 31 to 35 points, and I think that they're going to be able to turn Oregon State over. So I'm feeling like Oregon State's going to be 24-27, somewhere in there. That's the kind of game I think we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think Oregon State's a good football team. I look at their success, and I look at what, I look at what guys like, BJ Baylor's been doing. I mean, he is a 100-yard rushing machine. Now the question will be, can he run for 100 yards on Utah? And if he doesn't, does Nolan try to pick up some of that slack? Which I would think that he would. I mean, this offense is not spectacular at Oregon State. I mean, it's not. They're a team that's going to rely, I think, very heavily on clock control, and I think they're going to want to run the ball to win the game. I don't have any question about that. I think I'm more in a place where, I think this game's going to be dictated by those longer drives that Utah puts up, and Utah's ability to stop Oregon State from running the ball. If you can make Oregon State throw to win the game, you're probably gonna win the game.
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of success.
Yeah, and I think that it defensively, you look at what makes Oregon State go, and it's their linebackers. It's Avery Roberts and Omar Spates are two very good linebackers in this conference. We've talked about them all year. And, I think that those two are performing at a high level, and I think you're going to hear their names for a significant part of this game. And I think that I'm curious how much whoever runs the football more effectively is probably going to win this game. And that's why I think this offensive line for Utah getting after it. And I think that when you have a guy like Cam Rising playing as effectively as he has, that's why I lean towards Utah. But this is going to be a muddling game. This is going to be somebody's going to break off a couple of big runs. This feels like 27-24, 31-27, something. I'd be surprised if either one of these teams got into the 30s. That's just not how Oregon State's played this year. So I feel like, with the exception, obviously, of the SC game, but SC's defense has been wildly undisciplined.
By the way, this is a game that Utah needs to win. You have a stranglehold on the South. Like, you're in control. You need to win this game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think 31-27 feels right.